Welcome to Wild, Wacky, Wonderful Humans. This is the podcast that celebrates the quirks, the courage, and the brilliance of being human. I'm your host, Janine Tracy, transformational coach and curious explorer. Let's dive in and uncover the magic of being wonderfully human. All right, here we are, wild, wacky, wonderful humans.
Yes.
I have a very, very special guest today, Trudi Boatwright. I'm going to read your bio because you've done so many incredible things that my memory cannot remember all these things.
That's fair. Neither can I these days.
Exactly. So Trudi is a playful experience designer. I love that. We're going to jump on that soon.
Good.
She's a speaker, a coach, a theatre maker, a writer and creative who specialises in solving problems with play.
Play.
Ooh.
That's right. It's not a typo. It was the word play.
I love it. Anyone who knows me knows that play is an essential. Love it. Okay, so now you're working with organisations and adults to help them uncover the power of their playful selves. Ooh. And her journey was more fuzzy front end than strategic decisions.
Yes.
We're going to jump on this too.
Good.
This is cool. I love it. She's had 20 years of acting and theatre making experience. Alongside her arts career, took her to places like accounting.
Yes.
For non-profits, training and development, sales, get this, chocolate making. Who doesn't love a good chocolate making
I can give you the most
workshop?
random facts.
About chocolate. Give us one now. About chocolate.
Well, Hernando Cortez, who was a Spanish explorer, he actually hid chocolate from the rest of Europe for, I think it was like 15 years or something. He discovered it in South America first, the pods, and then he took it back to Spain and he didn't share it with the rest of Europe.
I know why.
Yeah, exactly. He was on a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's probably high on the endorphins of the chocolate. Okay, chocolate making workshops. And this is my favourite one. Amusement ride making.
Yes.
What?
Yes. I don't know if they're still there, but I worked for an animatronic company.
Yeah. And
we were making amusement rides for Spain.
For Spain?
Yes.
You've got a Spanish connection here.
There is a Spanish connection, isn't it? And I made like 25 giant, I just remember I actually had one in my bedroom for a long time. These like giant
That's not weird at all.
Snakes. They were like these snakes.
Snake.
Did
it move?
No, well, I think it did in the ride.
Right.
But I was just in the art department.
Wow.
And do you know, full disclosure, I was terrible. And I think they just kept me there out of like novelty factor because we used to have fun and go swimming at lunchtime. And I love the fact that we were making things. But I learned how to pour foam and, do fiberglassing and just all sorts of random creative things.
They probably kept you because you played.
I've got no doubt.
Yeah. And you brought that energy to that team, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love this. Okay, so she never imagined that her eclectic generalist experience of 48 jobs, 48 jobs, would one day come together to form a blossoming career. We'll come back to the 48 jobs because I'm about to probably talk about a few of them here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's worked on organic farms in Italy. Wow. She's held a luncheon in the House of Lords.
Yes. It was.
Tell me.
Yeah.
What? How?
So I worked for a really small restoration charity in the UK when I lived in London. And one of the co-owners had a connection at the House of Lords. So we had this fundraising function at the House of Lords. And my role was fairly small. I was fairly supportive. I had to hand out the little oak tree saplings that we gave them. And
oak tree saplings?
And it was really...
What's that?
It was so great. They were like little oak trees, basically, we'd be giving them.
Wow. And
you'd be giving them to the lords and ladies and whoever the distinguished guests that came.
Wow, okay.
And you'd be privy to these conversations where they'd be, oh, darling, oh, Charles, that was lovely. Oh, lovely, what will we do with this? And Charles would be like, we have no space for another oak tree, darling. And she'd be like, oh, put it in the holiday house. Like there was this lovely otherworldliness
to
witness. And I remember the cab driver the black taxi driver took me there because I had all these saplings with me. And he took me there in the morning.
That's hilarious.
And we drove through the gates of the House of Lords, and he was like a little kid. He was like, oh, my God, I've grown up in London all my life and I've never been inside the House of Lords.
Oh, he got to go for the first time
too. And it was
that's
beautiful.
Amazing. And so when you say child set, do you mean?
I don't mean the child.
Right, okay.
But we had Joanna Lumley was our highest esteem. She's very cool.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
What's she like?
Amazing. What a cool woman she is. Very down to earth, really passionate, really clever.
Oh, wow.
And so we just had this beautiful luncheon where we raised money for the foundation, and we talked about the restoration work that they were doing, and had this incredible experience where I wanted to steal the cutlery because they had their own like House of Lords cutlery.
Oh, did you?
I didn't because it's the House of Lords.
You can't do that.
You guys just want to beep, beep, beep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And are you curious to know what's happened to the oaks?
I am.
How big are they now? Where are they? Where did they end up?
Yeah, and did they make it to the holiday house, or did they get turfed in the bin by the husband? I'll never know.
Oh. That would be a nice little follow-up trip.
Wouldn't it?
You could do a little, I've come to see where the oaks are.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. Okay, so you have also been homeless.
I have.
What happened? What?
I had this moment I call it my Etch-a-Sketch moment in my life.
Yeah.
And I laugh about it now. But there was sort of this moment in my life where life went, you know what, you're going to start again. And it just sort of erased everything.
Oh, that's hard.
And it was this sort of surreal experience. I lost my marriage. I couldn't stay in the country that I was living, couldn't stay in the UK.
Wow.
I had this theatre company and I had to be in London for it. Just everything all happened at once. And so I had this 3 months where I had to leave the UK because my visa had run out, and there was a whole long story behind that. But I had this theatre company that I'd built this really incredible project that I was so proud of, and it was on in 3 months' time. So I am stubborn by nature, and I refused.
That's helpful sometimes, isn't it? Yeah.
And I refused to go back to the Southern Hemisphere. Right. So I sort of spent 3 months sort of being homeless and finding ways to survive around Europe.
Wow. How did you do that? What did you do to find a place to lay your head?
Yeah, I found volunteering opportunities. So there was one funnily enough, Spain. Really is a Spanish connection. There we go.
Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah. And that was where Pueblo Inglés. So it was free for you. You would go away as an English speaker to the Spanish countryside.
Right.
Excuse me. With 25 English speakers, 25 Spaniards, and you'd have a week and you would actually teach them conversational English in the countryside.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Does that exist now?
I've looked it up.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. I'm not sure it does, but we'll have a look.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Wow. And so as an English speaker, you just get your free accommodation, food, and experience. And you learn. I had like one-on-ones with every single Spanish person there about their life.
How incredible.
And it was amazing and free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Free accommodation, anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. Yep. That's very creative.
Yeah. Yeah. I did. I had to get creative about what do I do? I've got this minimal money, no place to stay.
Yeah.
How do I make this work for me?
Yeah, and not being defeated, right?
Yes.
Because it's so easy in that situation to be the victim and go, everything's working against me. Like you said, everything was falling apart.
Yes.
And it's easy to grab onto the things that are falling apart rather than go, okay, how can I make this work?
Yeah.
And even thinking of going to another country.
Yeah.
Like that's very broad thinking. A lot of people wouldn't even consider, because quite often we just understand our patch, right? We don't understand what's outside of our patch. So that's really, I'm impressed with that thinking.
Well, thank you.
But I think it was the Spain pool.
It was a Spain pool.
Yeah.
No, it was actually the Italy. I fell in love with Italy.
Oh, did you?
And everyone said I was mad.
Wow.
Everyone, like my family, I never fight with my sister, very rarely fight with my sister. And we had a big fight and she was like, you're being stupid. Come home.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm not going to come home. And I had this one night in particular that I remember in Italy. I got to this organic farm. I said I spoke conversational Italian. I didn't.
Oh.
I was totally overwhelmed. There was this peacock outside my window that wouldn't stop screaming. And I just remember curling in a ball and crying.
Oh, wow.
And then conversely, I remember the other part of me, the wise, bigger part of me, thinking, remember this feeling at this moment because it will change. And sure enough, that ended up being my favourite farm. Italy ended up being my favourite country.
Oh, wow.
And I had the most incredible time that I've had.
That's amazing. That's really insightful, though, isn't it, to be in a feeling and to call out that this will be a feeling of the past. Yeah. That's really sometimes really difficult to do, but so bloody important. Yeah. And it allows us to not get attached to that emotion or that feeling, knowing, one of my favourite sayings is, this too shall pass.
This too shall pass, me too.
Yeah, exactly.
This too shall pass.
Nothing's permanent, right? Yeah. Even the good, unfortunately. But it's just really insightful that you knew that in that moment. Like I know during COVID, when I never ever felt lonely in my life, I remember thinking, one day this will be a story I tell.
Yes.
And it really helped me get through. And I feel like that for you, not only is it a story you tell, there's a really strong association with that experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
How did you combat your loneliness?
Oh, that was really difficult. I walked. I walked for hours. We were only allowed out 1 hour a day, but I walked. I was waiting for someone to come and say, you've been walking 5 hours. And I'd say, yes, I have. Take that. Come and see my apartment, because I lived in this tiny little studio apartment. Yeah. And I was always prepared. I was like, yes, please. 3 army officers and 2 policemen walking through Fitzroy Gardens in a row of 5. It was really daunting. Yeah. Like, whoa, what reality are we living in right now?
Yeah.
And I really wanted them to say, you're being naughty. Here's a $1,600 fine, which is what the fines were.
Yeah, they were crazy,
incredible.
Weren't they?
And I wanted to say, come with me. Come and see my little studio apartment.
And have a cup of tea while you're here and we can chat.
Yeah, and see how lonely I am here.
Yeah.
So, I got out. Yeah. When I started drinking coffee. I wasn't a coffee drinker.
Oh.
And I started drinking coffee because it gave me a connection with the barista.
Oh, clever.
Gave me a purpose.
See, same thing, finding the purpose.
Exactly. Yeah, finding the purpose.
Finding the ray light in the haystack.
That's it. That's it. So, you have also created a festival. You touched on this. This is the same festival that you were talking about.
Yeah.
The 3 months was in 3 months' time.
Yeah.
What was this festival?
So this is it's still going.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That must be a proud thing.
It's one of the things that I'm most proud of in my life.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So what is the festival?
So it's a short play festival called the Offcut Festival.
Oh yeah.
And we were in London. I was in London and I had a theatre company with 2 friends of mine who I'm still dear friends with.
Oh, wow. Are they still in London, are they?
Still in London. Yeah. I saw one this year, actually.
Oh, cool.
There goes you.
Reveal!
There's a shed.
What a beautiful moment. We thought that might happen, and there's your gift.
There you go.
Easter egg in blatant sight.
If you're listening, we had a reveal just behind us there.
We did.
Yeah.
We had a mat covering a shed, and the mat fell down. So there is now a shed in view.
Because we're talking about being real
and
life.
Exactly.
And there's a shed.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was in London and had a theatre company, and we were making theatre. And I was sitting down with Daniel, who ran the theatre company with me, and we were sitting actually in the London Tower, in the gardens of London Tower.
Oh, wow.
And we were talking about how we help get all of these talented people in London, these artists, how do we help get them seen and get their work seen and socialised and out there for people to admire. And we were sitting on the lawns and we came up with this idea for something called the Offcut Festival, which was a short play festival. And it was audience voted in this sort of a specific way that eventually you end up with a certain amount. And then we have a gala evening where people come and watch the gala evening and the audience vote for the winner. There's a panel of experts that vote for it. And it's all about exposing up-and-coming talent.
Wow, that's incredible.
And it really was. It really was. And we started with this seed of an idea, and then we went for it, and we wanted to make it as premier as we could, as effective for the artists as we could.
Yeah.
And we ended up doing that. We had Maura Buffini, who headed up the panel. She's a brilliant playwright.
Okay.
We had the BBC casting that would come in. We had Matthew and Books, their agency, were on our panel.
Wow.
And I remember this one day too, we sort of wrote to a whole lot of, I remember I've got a handwritten letter from Sir Ian McKellen, because we wrote to all these people to ask them if they'd be on our panel.
Wow.
And he was doing Waiting for Godot at the time, and he wrote me back and said, thank you, but no. And I was having a really hard day. We were putting it together. I was at work. I was working in sales at that point. And I thought, I can't do this. This is too much. I can't do it. It's too hard. And at that moment, the phone rang, and I picked it up. And it was this wonderful woman. And she said, hello, I'm Helen Mirren's PA. And I was
what?
like,
No
what?
way.
She said, Helen can't make your gala, but she wanted me to ring and personally tell you that she thinks this is a fantastic idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
If that's not endorsement, I don't know what is.
Right? And so I said,
How
will she put a quote for it? And she said, yep, she will. She'd love to support it. So once we got Helen Mirren supporting us, once we got people on board, we did. We launched careers of people who are still going and still continuing.
Oh, wow.
And it's now moved to Manchester, and it's still going, and it's still exposing incredible artists.
Wow, that gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
I literally have goosebumps.
I'm
That's
really proud of
incredible. Yeah, well, you should be. That's incredible. And it's also because it's not just about the performance or the end product. It's about having a place for, as you would know, as a performer, as an actor, it's really difficult to be seen.
Yes.
And, you know, there are so many talented actors out there that we've never seen. And so to have another platform where they can have an opportunity to be met by casting directors, by fellow actors who potentially might include them in a project. You know, you just don't know what it's going to open up as an opportunity. That is really cool.
And we're really big on community and getting people to work together as a community. That was the other thing. It wasn't that sort of I could do better than you thing. It was about everybody getting in together. The auditions were held together. Nice. The dress rehearsals were done together. There was a lot of community to become an off-cut community. It was great.
Well, how did you come up with the name?
It's a good question. It's a lot of years ago.
You can't remember?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a cool name.
Cool name.
Off-cut. It's like the we could deliberate on that for hours, so it's probably not
That's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast, the off-cut edition. We'll do that. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love this quote that so Trudi just recently did a TEDx talk.
Yeah. Yes.
How cool was that?
It was amazing.
Was this on your bucket list?
Yeah. Yes, it was. I had it on my list of things to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one of those things, I used to be a real vision board naysayer. I used to think, vision boards are so dumb. And now I've 360'd.
Ooh.
And I love my vision board.
Why? What changed?
It started to work.
Oh,
I had this sheet of paper, and I wrote down like 3 people I wanted to work with, like 3 pie in the sky people, sort of reluctantly, because someone said, you've got to set goals and visions. And I was like, nah.
Yeah.
And randomly, within a 6-month period, all 3 of them had contacted me and said, will you do some work with me?
No way.
And I went,
this shit works.
This shit works. And so,
write things down, people.
Yeah,
Write them down.
Write them down. Vision board them. Put them up.
Yeah.
So it was, and it was incredible because I do a lot of speaking.
Yeah.
But it's always about engaging the audience and getting feedback from them and getting them involved in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I'm always reaching out and pulling in for their experience. But this was a different format. So this was being recorded. So it really was about me just stepping forward and sharing what I loved. And that was wonderful.
It was wonderful. I watched it twice.
Oh, thanks.
It was wonderful.
Thank you.
And you epitomized the message that you were giving. You know, you stepped into it and you were it.
Thank you.
You weren't just saying things. You know, like quite often people are talking about something and they're saying the words. And you know that logically that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You embodied it, or you do embody it. And so when you were sharing it, it was you sharing the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what was so lovely, to actually stand up and have the opportunity to really just talk about what I'm truly passionate about, what I really believe in, and what I've always wanted to do is to use play in what form that takes to improve the world. It was magical.
Yeah. And so if that's your mission, if that's your purpose and the message that you've always wanted to get out, why is that? Why do you feel so strongly about this?
It is a good question.
Yeah.
And I have thought about this a lot. And I was thinking about this recently, and I think there is a real, I have a real love and a real belief and connection with humans. I think humans are gorgeous and magical. And I don't know, I think play, that's been an interesting process to get towards play, but really it's about humanity. Underneath the word play is this real sense of humanity.
Yeah.
And I do feel like it's really some of the darker times in my life that have really shown me the value of finding the light, even in the dark times.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really important about that. And I think it's easy to forget as humans.
Totally.
We are, I was saying this the other day, there are very few people in the world who've actually had their life sort of flash before their eyes.
Yep. And
I'm quite, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm quite lucky to be one of those people.
Right. Okay.
Which sounds really...
This is a clear demonstration of taking the lesson from the learning, right? Yeah. So
look,
yeah.
It's taken a few years to get there, but
yeah.
And I think that's really underpinned a lot of what I do, in the sense that life really is that it could change at any moment.
Yes.
And I think it's really hard as human beings to take ourselves out of all of the cogs and the wheel turning that is happening around us, all of the responsibility, the social pressure, that it's so easy for our minds and our bodies and our lives to get caught up in this sort of web of societal pressure that we've created as humans.
Yep.
And I look at my dog often. He's a master of like simple living
and play.
And I often think, if I can help somebody just pull their head above that web for a moment to feel life,
yeah,
it can help.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something that we need more people doing.
Yes.
And I think particularly as we go down further and further down the path of AI, and people losing their purpose,
yes,
losing their work, losing who they think they are, because their job is disappearing, which is going to happen in the next year. Even a lot of people are going to use their jobs to digital or automated ways of doing things, right? And so I think more and more people are going to need this pulling the head above the web. They're going to need the human connection, the element of activating and waking up the body, feeling through play.
Yes, and I think play in particular, because you can't play without being present.
Exactly.
I can't be in this space with you and play with you unless I'm here with you.
Yep.
And I think there's something really magical in that, that humans are really going to need as the world gets quicker and quicker and quicker. And as we pull apart from each other, you can see humanity pulling apart from each other, and play is that vehicle. And really understanding, like that's the other interesting thing. A lot of the base of my work comes from Spolin, which is she's like the grandmother of improvisation.
Yep.
And it's the type of drama that I studied in the UK when I was at drama school. And it is very much, when you're in a rehearsal room, I say this to a lot of people, and you'll understand this, Janine, is that when you see a performance, you see the tip of an iceberg, but actually there is all of the hard work that goes on in the rehearsal room.
Yeah.
And that work is about really trying to understand who somebody is, physically, emotionally, historically. Who is this person? And I think play helps us do that.
Yeah.
Quickly.
For ourselves or for the other people?
Both.
Yeah, nice.
And so I feel like it's an injection of into humanity.
Yeah.
Which is where we can play together for a few minutes and we've got a deep understanding with each other and we're done.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all it takes sometimes, right?
That's all it takes.
That's all you need sometimes.
Yeah.
Wow. And so with that technique or that methodology, the Spolin methodology,
yes,
what is it that's at the core to get people to that? Like, how do people get to that?
Yep.
Like, we could say just play, but what is that? Like, what does that actually mean for someone who does it, who's foreign to this?
It's like saying to someone, just fall in love.
Yeah, exactly.
Just fall in love
Yeah,
with
yeah,
them.
exactly. What? How? No thanks. Yeah.
Spolin was great around setting up the rules of the game.
Oh,
so a bit like as we teach our children, we give them boundaries.
Yeah.
And then there's this freedom to explore in the middle. And playing is, the concept of play can be exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
You set up these boundaries and then we've got this freedom to play in the middle. And it's safe and it's status free. We talked about status before.
Yeah.
I'm calling it the statosphere. Work is this giant stratosphere, which I love.
I like it. Yeah. Nice.
And in the stratosphere, we go to a workshop and we don't want to say something silly because the boss is there.
Yep.
But we thumb wrestle with him and we don't care if we beat him.
So when you're doing stuff like this, thumb wrestling with the boss, how does this go down? Yeah. Like, is there, because there's egos to protect, there's, I can't be seen to be beating the boss, or, what if my promotion doesn't go through? Are you dealing with this kind of chatter, whether it's external or internal? Like maybe it's, you can possibly read that people are feeling a reluctance to do this because something's going on, or they're vocally expressing it. What's your experience?
I find it flips.
Okay.
Because playing is safe. If I beat you in a thumb wrestle, it's not as obstructive as if I say something that you disagree with, right? Because it's play, it's a safe space, it's rules of the game.
Yeah.
Right? So often what will happen is, and so I find the flip side, what happens is I'll go in there to do something, and through playing, up will simmer a really big organisational problem that everyone goes, oh, wow.
What a gift.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's actually the opposite. It equals all the status. It changes all the status. It levels everybody. It flattens the stratosphere.
Yeah, wow. What about the permission to do it? How does that work? So you come in and you give the rules of the game.
Yep.
How do people step into that stratosphere? How do people step into that knowing that they're safe?
Yes. That is really the art.
Yeah.
And I think that is where a lot of people, a lot of the bad press about play, a lot of when you're dealing with an environment where somebody isn't used to the stratosphere and the power of the invitation. So the moment I'm really looking into, we focus so heavily in our work about outcomes and end results.
Yes.
And we very rarely pay any attention to the inside, the beginning, the invite, the invitation to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with play, you can't make someone play.
No.
So there's no way you can walk into a workshop and go, hey, guys, this is going to be fun. You're all going to love it and you're all going to play.
Oh, yeah. A good way to get people to switch off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't. So you have to, it really is about that soft invitation. It's really about that slow, allowing people to feel that it is okay, that it is safe. It's okay.
Yeah.
And once you do that, once you unlock it,
incredible.
Game on.
And so how do you deal with the people who aren't accepting the invitations? And do you have that happen? Like you're going into corporate. So Trudi goes into corporate and facilitates workshops and sessions where it is using play to bubble up company issues or to help resolve company issues, right? So I imagine I've done corporate training, lots of it. There will be people there who don't want to be there. There'll be people there who are exiting. There'll be people there who don't like their work colleagues and don't want to be doing anything intimate or playful with them because they don't want to reveal the side of themselves that is vulnerable. How do you deal with these people?
There's a few things, but very rarely. See, this is the other interesting thing. Humans, we're pack animals.
We are.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's fine. Occasionally I'll get somebody who's like, I don't play. I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's no worries. I can't make you play. Cool. No problem.
Yeah.
But when everybody else is doing something, you feel the compulsion. Right? So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm not going to make anybody do anything.
No.
There's a really fine line there. But
what's that little giggle about?
A little giggle because often people will come in with the resistance, and it's amazing how quickly it's a primal response in us. And if you tap into it correctly, and the other thing I do is design my work and my experiences so that it is as it is subtly revealing, it is inclusive as possible.
Awesome.
I don't want anybody to have a horrible experience because they stop playing. So everything I do is about how do I make this inclusive? How do I not expose someone? How do I keep everybody? And so because then the role of inclusivity comes through, very rarely do you get people who won't end up contributing.
Oh, that's great. And I guess it is that gentle invitation too, isn't it?
Yeah.
I use the invitation all the time. Whenever I'm facilitating a workshop, it's always, this is just an invitation.
Yeah.
If you'd like to do it, completely up to you. If you don't, then that's okay too. You might get more out of this exercise if you do it, but over to you. And I feel like when you're taking that gentle approach, you're giving someone permission. And often we need permission, which is why, I don't know how you feel about why people stop. Actually, I'll ask you, why do you feel people stop playing? So we start as children, we play. That's how we discover the world, right?
Yeah.
We are born players. Playing.
We are.
So we're very adventurous and exploratory by nature. Why do we stop doing that? And when do we stop doing that?
I think it's the status fear.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. Organisationally, the change came during the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Because that was about product. So nobody sat around before that.
Yeah.
I mean, play has been used for eons, socially and organisationally.
Yeah.
It's just the Industrial Revolution that made us all sit down and produce.
Yeah.
So it's all there, but I do think it's definitely the status fear. It's sort of got to this point where you think about the images of successful people in the last however many years. They have been serious, square, strong, usually masculine people who have been successful. Yeah. And I think that's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you think about it, like here's the prime example. Imagine like who is the person with the most important job that you know?
The person, it's always like a president or a prime minister or a leader of something, right?
Have you ever seen, think of someone you know.
Someone I know, yep. Okay.
Okay.
Personally know?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right, they got an important job.
Yeah.
They're important people.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen them play with their child or niece?
Yes.
Different?
Very different.
Right?
Very different.
We all know
so
how to do it. It's there.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I've been in situations where, because similar, I've been using play in corporate and I've been told it's unprofessional to play. Yeah. Have you had that and how do you deal with that? Because this is a perception, right?
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah.
It's in them. But do you think there's a bit of a gap in the understanding that play is not something to be shelved in corporate or in business, but rather something to be utilised, and they just don't know that? How do you think that's kind of come about, and why are people seeing it as unprofessional?
I think because a lot of the time it's been included as a fun add-on to their work.
Oh, yeah.
I think the ability to add it into our work is only new and is quite nuanced.
So it's more of a tick box. Oh, yeah, we've been playful, we've been fun, we're one of the top 10 amazing culture companies to work for, that kind of stuff.
We have lamingtons at morning tea and we all do axe throwing twice a week. Nothing wrong with that, right? No. Play for diversion, it's really important.
Yes, yeah. So it's really, do you think it's a bit of an education piece still?
I do.
How far along the trajectory do you think we are? Like, if you think when you first started, how much more difficult was it to have the play conversation compared to now? And how much further have we got to go?
I didn't call it play. I didn't call it play. For years, I didn't call it play. Wow. For years, I wrapped it up. I tied it up in all of this corporate-y, blah, blah. Yeah. And I wrapped it up in like all the other special words that everybody went, oh, yes, important. And then one day, it was during COVID, same thing. I was exhausted. I didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't know where to go. I was at this real crossroad. And somebody said to me one day, what do you do? And I was so tired and I just said, I teach adults how to play. And they went, oh, that's cool.
Ooh.
And I thought, oh,
yes. Someone
finally.
thinks it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, okay, let's just try using the word play. Like, let's just strip back the curtain.
Yeah.
I know it works. And I get it a lot, right? I will go to events. I will see people talk to me as if I don't know what I'm talking about organizationally.
Yeah.
I will have people talk across me. I will have people dismiss me as if I'm just, the play girl. That's fine. Because actually I know intrinsically how powerful what I do is.
Yeah.
I have done it from ages of 4 to 98. I have done it with policemen and prisoners. I have done it with dying people and newly graduated university students.
Wow.
I have done it with Indigenous groups. I have done it with different cultures, and it works. So I'm okay if people want to.
Yeah.
Soon they'll hear the rumours. Soon it will keep growing. I think it's about like 8%.
Wow.
That's what I reckon.
Very young, isn't it, in the
Puppy.
journey?
Yeah.
How exciting is that?
I know. I feel excited about
I know. There's so much scope now.
Yeah.
And as we get more and more disconnected, we need more and more of this.
All the futurists are saying the future needs to be full of imagination, creativity, and play.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
That's humanity.
Yes.
That's coming back to being human, isn't it?
It's human.
This is who we are at our core.
Yep.
So you're doing this in corporate, but it doesn't matter who the end user is, right? It doesn't matter who's learning this information. For people who are listening now, what's the one thing that they can do right now to step into that?
It's a mindset.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much. The 3 little tiny questions that I say to people to use, ask whatever you're doing, doesn't matter. It could be like cleaning your teeth.
Yeah.
Right? Every morning we go in and we clean our teeth, blah, 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 blah. Why am I doing this? Why do I do this? Well, why not do it? Why not do something different? And what if I? And what if is the brave area?
Ooh,
right? So why not use my toothbrush with my other hand?
Ooh,
something little.
Stepping out.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be huge.
No.
And it's the same in play and work. It doesn't need to be huge.
Yeah.
It can be the smallest things.
Yeah.
Why do we need to write agendas? Why can't we have raffle agendas?
Ooh.
Why do we need to have a meeting?
I like that.
Yeah. Why do we need to be all sitting down in a meeting? Why can't we be standing? Why can't we have a meeting one section standing up, one lying on the floor?
Yeah. Wow.
Why do we do the things we do?
So it's really questioning status quo. It's questioning what's always been.
Yep. And testing.
Trial and error. Did this work? Did this feel good? No. Oh, I'll try something else. Do you find a lot of people give up, though, when they test it and I don't want to say the word fail because it's not a failure, but it didn't feel right or it didn't feel good. Do they give up and not try something else?
I think
it's like, play doesn't work for me. I
tried it.
I've tried it. It doesn't work. It's not for me.
Depends on the person.
Yeah.
And depends on your team, right? And also too, I would always say to people, start slowly.
Yes.
As adults, we are so far removed from our playful selves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Don't go in there with a pack of icebreakers where you're going to get everybody to be a camel straight away. Nobody's going to be a
interesting,
camel,
wouldn't it?
right?
Bring a camera to that one. I want to see that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's really, and you mentioned the word brave.
Yeah.
Being brave to do something different, and firstly to see it differently, and then to do it differently. The 3 questions you're asking. I think that's such a gift to be able to swivel something. But I guess the question is why? Why do I want to swivel it? So if anyone is listening to this, they're going, okay, asking those 3 questions. Why am I asking those 3 questions? What's the purpose of asking the 3 questions?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. I think really why I do what I do, there are so many benefits to play, but I'm really honing in on more and more. I really like it. I call myself a playful experience designer, and I really love the experience.
Yeah. Tell me more about this.
Because that's using the experiential learning cycle.
Yeah.
So it's a way to learn things quickly and to keep the knowledge of it. quickly.
Okay.
So why would I do it differently? Why do I want to? Because I want someone to remember something. Because I want someone to connect to something.
Yeah.
And because I want someone to innovate something.
So they're actually experiencing it.
Yeah.
And there's muscle memory, there's all of that cool stuff, there's emotion, there's you know, the neurochemicals that are released when you're doing it. And so there is a form of memory. And there's also a form of activation as well, right?
Yes.
So they're activating something within their body, which then is linked to the experience. And if they're activating something that's a cool feeling or a fun feeling or a playful feeling, then they'll connect that with the experience of, oh, I really liked that. I'm going to do that again or do something else.
Yeah. Or even the reflection part, even if it goes wrong, right? So this is the magic of the experiential learning cycle, is you have that experience and then you reflect on, well, what happened there? Why did it feel wrong? Why did because I've got a highly, strategic thing, or no one understood the instructions, or then you think through the issue and then you take action on that. Next time and then round you go. Yeah. So it's the experiential cycle, but it's combined with psychological safety to make it a free.
That's important, isn't it? Yeah. And that's, I guess sometimes where people have become frightened of play is potentially that they were not in that environment. It wasn't a psychologically safe environment, and they felt too seen or too heard. And you know, some people, when they have a spotlight put on them as a child, even as very young children, how many people do you know who have been pretty much shamed to not speak? Now, how many people say they'd rather die than publicly speak? Yeah. That's a very intense statement.
It's an intense statement.
And a lot of those statements come from that experience of having that spotlight on you in an environment where you didn't know what to do or what to say, and then the play stops.
Yep.
It's traumatizing, isn't it?
Because it's no longer voluntary. And it's forced.
Exactly.
I mean, I had when I was a young girl, I was doing a role play with someone. I was working for a company and I was doing a role play with someone as an actor, and they were so anxious about it that they collapsed.
Oh, wow. Wow. They take it so, yeah. And because it's experiential, it's real. And the brain doesn't know whether this is a real situation or not, right? I used to do bank robberies as an actor. It's so much fun. And, you'd say to people, we are going to come in, we're going to point a gun at your face, and we're going to say things to you. They're just actors. And it was incredible, the response that people had. They physiologically go into a response as though they are in a bank robbery. It was incredible. So, so you can see how people do respond that way and how that can create trauma and triggers for trauma.
So it's really up to the person. This is why, all of those years of experience has given me the confidence and the ability to know how to navigate that space.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I think often if you don't, it can go a bit haywire.
Yeah, so you've got to make sure you get someone who's a professional and knows the work. If you're going to be conducting play sessions at work or play sessions with people who don't really want to be there, you've got to have someone who knows the heck what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's the other misconception, because everyone's like, well, I hear from people all the time, I play at work, I use play at work, and they do. I'm not saying that they don't. Everybody can play, so everybody uses it, and that's one of my goals, is to go in and teach organisations how to use it. But with it comes this flamboyancy and flippancy that I think needs to come with a cautionary tale. If you're using play in your work, if you're using play as an add-on to your work, no problem.
Yeah. But if it's in, for sure. Because it's about providing that psychologically safe environment, right? That's the key. Yeah, because that can do a lot of damage if you don't have an expert, someone who understands the importance of that. And also knowing that there are triggers. So if something had happened to someone when they were younger, when they were a young girl, that something that you say in that space as the play facilitator could trigger that. Yeah. And you're trained to be able to deal with that. Other people might not be able to deal with that or even see it.
Yes. But once again, this is the beautiful thing about play, is that you have to be so present that you will notice it.
Yeah.
Because you're there with someone.
Yeah.
Whereas quite often, you know, you can be there, someone's up front talking, blah, 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 and has no idea that's been someone in the back's been triggered.
Yeah.
Because they just wrote their stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas when you're playing, you're there. You're eye to eye. You're in the space. You're doing something. You're connected.
Such a gift, isn't it? Being present. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Now you talk about 5 elements of spark.
Yes.
Or 5 elements that
playfulness.
spark playfulness.
Yeah.
What are these?
These are, so this was part of my master's. I really looked into what creates playfulness. How do you spark playfulness? Really the question from before. Like how do you, and I really went round the world and back, and I did observation. I did all of these sort of research methods. I questioned people, and I came down to these sort of 5 elements that spark playfulness that you need to have in a playful environment.
Okay.
And presence is one of them.
Right. Yep.
Curiosity.
My favourite word of all time.
Right.
My favourite behaviour of all time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Playful people are curious.
Yeah.
Playful people are present.
Yeah.
Flexibility, right? Play is never going to go the way you think.
No.
So there's always that's needed in there.
Yeah.
Courage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Bit of bravery, right? So you do need to be brave to step into a playful space.
Yeah. I love that one.
And what have we got? Flexibility, courage. What am I missing? They're my own words.
One of the ones.
Presence, curiosity, bravery, a feeling of safety, which we've talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Feeling of safety.
Yeah, for
is the
sure.
5th one.
Yeah.
If you don't feel safe, you can't play. And that's right across the board. That's any mammal. If they don't feel safe, they won't play.
Yeah.
And humans are the same.
Yeah.
So if you've got a feeling of safety, you're curious, you can be flexible, you can be present, and they've got a bit of bravery, that's your key.
Wow. And so I guess if somebody feels a bit of a resistance to play, because there could be people listening who are like, oh, I want to play, but I just don't. Do you feel that if they just brought in a little one of those elements, that it could make a difference?
Yes,
Okay.
just one.
Yeah.
And it's only tiny. I say to people, don't think you need to go in there with a giant dartboard. It only needs to be tiny.
Yeah, yeah. So just be a tiny bit curious.
Just a tiny bit curious.
Just a little bit flexibility. A little bit of flexibility.
Be a bit more present.
Oh.
Listen to something. See what you find.
Oh, I like it.
Be a bit brave.
Yeah.
You know, start your morning meeting with saying Guten Tag rather than hello.
Ooh.
Whatever.
Yeah. See how that's so simple.
Yeah.
That's such a simple thing. And it'll be really interesting to see the response in people, right? Because that kind of will activate something in them too.
Yeah.
And like you said before, we're pack animals. You know, if everyone kind of starts doing something, it becomes contagious almost, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I love those. So curiosity, flexibility, courage, safe, and presence.
Mm.
Oh, I love all of those things.
They're the 5.
And so those 5 things got to your masters too.
Yes.
This was your masters in what?
Design futures.
In design futures.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's really looking at and encompassing how is play used as a design tool, as a design process.
Yeah, wow.
Particularly in the world of co-design now and participatory design.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. How was doing your masters?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it. I had a ball. I loved every second of it. I want to do more.
Wow.
It's addictive.
Really?
But only because I was studying something that I truly loved.
Yeah.
I would read hours and hours and hours of stuff around play, and I did a 3.5-week research safari to the US, and I had 1 week on design, and I went to all the design museums, and then 1 week on play, and I went to the Strong Museum of Play, and I went to their research room.
What is this? Tell me.
So,
what is this place?
So yes.
And I need to book a ticket.
You really do, right?
Yes.
So in Rochester in the US, there is a museum of play.
Right.
And it is this huge museum, and it's incredible. It houses all sorts of exhibits and history and everything. But they have a research room, and you can go up there, and they have like an entire library of books of play. And I just spent days.
You must have been like a little child at Christmas. Please, can I stay here?
Yeah. So I did like a week of design and a week of play. And then I went to this incredible place called Chautauqua in the US with my friend Kay, if anyone's been. It's amazing. And then I did a week of like immersive theatre, because that's that experiential design.
Yeah.
And it was this incredible 3.5-week safari of these incredible experiences that I could then weave into my masters.
Oh, wow, that sounds incredible. I want that 3.5-week safari. You can package that up and sell it.
maybe we should.
There's a travel experience
if you're interested,
for you, right?
please send us a
Let
message.
us know. We'll be there. 2025 is the year for play. Yeah, that sounds incredible. Is there any place that you went to or anything that came up over there that you want to return to or want to explore deeper?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay.
There were 3 things. Firstly, sensory, how powerful. Once again, we all know in communication, 70 to 90% is nonverbal. Our senses are so important. Now we're going to learn something. So we're all going to sit down and shut down everything except our brain. Doesn't make any sense.
No.
So how important and how powerful sensory stuff can be.
Yeah.
I really liked the interesting thing about with design, it is about the end. It's about how you get to the process, right? It's about how you travel through the journey. With play, it's about the whole journey. And with immersive theatre, it was really about the creation of there were sort of these 3 areas of the journey. So I'd like to look more around how they all interconnect.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you've got the 3 separate journeys for each of those elements, isn't it? Wow.
And then
did you already see an interconnection with those 3? Or you need to explore it a bit deeper to understand that?
I didn't understand it as deeply. And I think, I'm not sure I articulated that very well, but with design, you're focusing on the outcome.
Yep.
With play, you don't focus really, or there's no.
It's the presence.
It's the presence. With design, it's the end.
Yeah.
And with theatre, it's the journey.
Right. Yeah, I can see how they all intermingle for sure.
They do. And so that's sort of the space that I now work in.
Yeah, wow. And if they've all got the spotlight, if they're all exacerbated to their full capacity, I can't imagine how them merging, the 3 of them merging would be just incredible, right? And often people just do one thing or they just focus on one thing. Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's cool. I can't wait to see what you create with that.
Yeah, I had this. The 9/11 Museum was amazing.
Oh, right.
And because it was the way they used auditory senses.
Wow.
And I had this one bit where they had all of the missing persons things sort of scrolling up, but they had this soundtrack of like steel and.
Oh, wow.
And at one point I covered my ears. I once had this beautiful thing with an artist who told me to remove your ears when you look at beautiful things.
Oh, wow.
So
that's good advice. Cover your ears when you're looking at beautiful things.
Yep. He took me in to see David and he stood behind me and covered my ears and it changed the whole experience.
How great is that?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope I now see everyone in art galleries doing this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's your new high five, International High Five Day. Trudy started an International High Five Day by saying it was International High Five Day.
Exactly.
So now we're going to have International
Hold Your Ears Day.
At art galleries. There we go.
But the sound made so much difference.
Yeah, wow.
Just the little things that we do.
That's provocative, isn't it? Yeah. Sound, and in movies, sound. If there's a ship movie, often they'll use a soundtrack to cover it up, to evoke emotion, which the actors perhaps couldn't do or the director couldn't do, right?
Yeah.
So sound is a very powerful methodology to evoke emotions. Nice. Awesome. Now, I've got 3 fun questions for you.
Good.
We've chatted about a lot, but there's a lot more
that
you bring, you contribute. It's incredible.
That's everybody, right? Everybody has this.
It's amazing.
Tapestry.
Yeah. So I'm interested in these 3 things.
Okay.
What is one of the wildest things you've done?
I think one of the wildest things was probably that 3 months around Europe because I did some pretty wild, crazy things.
Any that you can share?
I had this gorgeous love affair with a artist in Florence.
An artist in Florence, just that one statement is this evoking images for anybody else? Because it's evoking a really incredible image for me. Wow.
I went and stayed with him for a week and he had to do like a Madinari on the roof. So he said, come and help me. And I was like,
wow.
So I spent a week like dripping in paint, helping him do just little bits. I'm not very Yeah, and things like that. I had this one day where I was sitting at a bus stop in the middle of Italy going, oh, not a single person in the world knows where I am right now. Like, it felt, there were some wild things.
That's a good feeling.
Good feeling,
That is a good feeling,
yeah.
knowing that no one really knows where you are and you are truly present in this moment. Yeah. Wow, cool.
So that was probably one of the wildest.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and what about one of the wackiest things you've done?
Do you know, I really, these questions are really great because there's so many things that go, ooh. There's a few lovely.
That's good. That's really good. You're truly living.
Yeah.
If there's a few.
There's a few.
Yeah.
I'm going to have 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
When I was in high school still, so I must have been 17. I did a drag show with a friend of mine who was becoming a drag queen, who's still a drag queen, excellent, brilliant drag queen to this day, Miss Penetration, and
great name.
And
I love the names.
We were part of his first show at the local soccer club.
Oh, wow.
And actually, it was a brilliant show, and he was brilliant, and he still is brilliant. But that was pretty wacky.
That's pretty wacky.
Because it wasn't like inner city. We were like suburbs.
Yeah. And it wasn't as mainstream as it is now, right?
Definitely not. We're talking like mid-90s.
Yeah. There's presence and bravery right there.
It was great.
Yeah, wow.
With all the costumes and sequins and headdresses and 3-course meals. So that was the first one.
How divine.
The other wacky thing I've done, which I'm trying to get everybody to have the experience of, I once conducted an orchestra.
Wow, how did that come about?
I was a suit character for this kids show that taught kids about brass instruments.
Oh, wow.
And we did a show with an orchestra at the big conservatorium in Sydney. And at the rehearsal I said, and we had this comedy act, right, where I would, as the conductor, would come on and I would comedically push off the real conductor, and, all this sort of stuff. And at the rehearsal I said to the orchestra, look, obviously I'm not a real conductor. You just do you. Just ignore me. Don't worry when I come on and conduct you. But of course they're a trained orchestra. So what happened was when I picked up the baton and I started to do some really comedy stuff like going really fast and going really slow, they followed me.
Oh, how cool.
And like immediately to have the power of music.
Wow.
They pulled the head off me and I was like in this other world.
Wow.
And to this day, it's one of the wackiest but the most profound things I've ever done.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I can see the tears in your eyes.
It was amazing.
The memory is really raw. That's cool.
That's my second.
That's really being in the moment too.
Oh.
Have you read the book The Art of Is by Stephen Nachmanovich?
No, I have not.
He was a conductor, musician, and he uses that for improvisation, for play, to connect with people.
Oh, really?
I think you'd love that.
I would love that. I have been trying
to
work out how we can give people an experience like that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So that's
nice.
The second.
Love that one.
And the third one is riding a yak.
Riding a yak?
Yeah.
When did you do that?
So I've always had these things. I love geography and I love the world, and I look at these places and I go, what's there on that world map? And there's this little knob in India, in between Bhutan and Nepal, and it's Sikkim, the Sikkim area.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what's there in India? Like, this little tiny knob, what's up there?
I love your curiosity. It's like, I want to go to this knob on the map.
Yeah. So we did. I went on this wild adventure with my friend who became my lover, who's now my fiance.
Wow.
And I had this thing about riding a yak because, from what I understand, yaks don't do very well below a certain altitude. That's why you never see a yak in a zoo.
Oh.
You think about it. I've never seen a yak in a zoo.
There needs to be some hilltop zoos.
Yeah.
Or not.
So we went to this little knob, Sikkim, which is this gorgeous place, very mountainous, and you have to go right up to the top. And I rode a yak with him.
Wow.
And that was wacky.
That's very wacky and romantic as well. He turned into your lover and then your fiance. Was it the yak ride that kind of catapulted that?
It was not the yak ride. We were still friends when we were yakking.
You're right. Okay, yeah.
It wasn't till later.
Yak. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
What? That's pretty wacky.
It was wacky.
That's pretty cool. And I love how you discovered it.
Yeah.
That's wacky too. It's wacky, it's curious, it's brave. It's all the things that you live your life by. I love that. That's cool. Okay, my last question for you, Trudi. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having
today.
me.
It's been a blast.
I really enjoyed it.
What do you think makes humans wonderful?
So many things. Our incredibly, beautifully rich tapestry. I have a lovely dear friend of mine called Joyce Stewart, who I heard say recently, when somebody walks into the room, they walk in with 200 people behind them.
Wow.
Through ancestors and histories and memories. And I love that humans, we're so complex. And I don't think we celebrate that enough, about how beautifully messy and bold and intricate, and like we're just glorious people. We're affected by so many things. We're an interweave of so many things. We're all so beautifully unique. We all are the same but different. Like we're glorious creatures. And I don't think we celebrate that enough.
How can we? How can we celebrate that? What's one piece of advice you can give our listeners to celebrate being the glorious tapestry of a human that we are?
I would say curiosity, like just being interested.
Yeah.
And also just, immediately I would say play.
Yeah.
Playing with someone is the best way.
Yeah. And the thing that just crossed my mind when you said being interested, sometimes we can spend too much time focusing on being interesting.
Yes.
But if we just flip that and be interested, be curious.
Yes.
Be present.
Yep.
And the play feels more natural. Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
I've had a really good time.
Same. I have so many more questions. Thank you, Trudi. I'll put your links to all of your amazing socials and your LinkedIn, your Instagram, all your webs. You've got a couple of web pages.
Yep,
so
got all the things.
I'll put all of those links in the show notes. Great. And you can contact Trudi if you want to have any kind of conversation about play.
Yes.
If you'd like to plug anything right now, is there anything you're working on that you want to share?
I would just say connect with me, watch this space. There are things coming in the pipeline.
Ooh, bit of mystery.
I can't say too much too soon. But
I love that.
Exciting things coming. Please connect with me. Please start a conversation with me. And if you are interested, let's chat.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Yay. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Wild, Wacky, Wonderful Humans. If you had fun, share it with someone just as wild and wonderful as you. Stay wild, stay wonderful, stay wacky, and I'll catch you next time.